Hi, I'm Arjun Partha and I'd like to welcome you to my first unboxing video. Today I'm going to be unboxing the Allwin JD9 Professional Cutting Mat A1 size. Now to buy it I went on Amazon.in and I looked it up, Allwin JD9 Cutting Mat, and this is the one. I'm just gonna click on this and this is the magnified view. It looks glorious right here, and this should be the first page. This should be maybe the second page, which also looks very good. And you can see it's a very high quality print on this. And the full name of the product would be Allwin JD9 Professional Cutting Mat A1 Self-Healing 5 layers double-sided durable non-slip PVC, which is 89 into 59 centimeters, and it is green in color. This is the detailed description of the model, and then I finished ordering it and it's come. Now I have finished ordering the package and it's come. And this is the size. Yeah, it's so big. It's bigger than me almost, and it blocks the hole. Let's cut it out. After taking out the box, I kept this on my table, and it turns out it takes up the entire table space. This should be the top side. The only problem about the packaging is when you get it, it comes folded in half, so you have to actually spend half an hour or more to make it flat. And if you read the product description, it says never fold this. So if there's any way to improve the packaging, I would believe that it should just come in a bigger box so it's not folded. I'm going to now show you the details of this mat. Now this is the right end of the top side of my cutting mat. Over here on the very edge, there's an angle marker given. So we start with 80 degrees, 60 degrees, 45 degrees, 30 degrees, 20 degrees, 10 degrees, and all the way to 0 degrees. I'll show you what's there on the other side now. On the other end of the board, you will find these circles and squares, which start with the number 2 and go all the way to 17. Now, this is measured in millimeters. So, the dimensions of the square is 1 millimeter into the number. So, this is 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters, 5 millimeters, 6 millimeters, 7 millimeters, and goes all the way to 17 millimeter. Diameter for this circle would be 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters, till 17 millimeters. Now we have to turn over the cutting mat to see what useful tools are given on the other side. Now the other side is the more technical side because there's far more information given and more tools that we can use. Over here you'll find protractor that goes all the way from 0 to 180. I find it very useful, but it is pretty large for the size. Now let's go a bit to the right and I'll show you what we have. Over here we have a hexagon size reference chart, and from here you'll see it's marked 10, 20, 40, 60, 80 and 100. This would represent the height from the top of the hexagon to the bottom of the hexagon. And yes, it's in millimeters. It's 10 millimeters, 20, 40, 60, 80 and 100 millimeters. Let's move a bit more to the right. All the way at the end of the mat, you will get bigger circle sizes that go from 5 millimeters to 35 millimeters. Over here, you will get triangles with an altitude of 7 millimeters to 34 millimeters. Again, this is very useful if you're doing some geometry work or you just want to try some kirigami or something like that. These are very useful skills. Now I'm going to show you the top of the cutting mat. Now in the middle of the board you have these markings that go from R60 to R1800 and have these small oval, half oval cuts around them. Now I haven't exactly figured out what they are for, but if you have, then please tell me in the comment section below. And if you know what these are, I think you'll find them particularly useful when you're trying to do any project. Now I'm going to show you the very top of the board. Now at the top right corner, you're going to start noticing ovals with the dimensions written on top. Usually the first dimensions given will be of the length and the second part would be the height. Now we start all the way from 16 into 10 millimeter at the right and go all the way to 43 into 29 millimeters all the way on the left of the first row. In the second row, you're going to notice that it starts with a 45 into 30 millimeter oval to a 65 into 40 millimeter oval. Now I'm going to choose to keep it on this side because it's more, of course, more detailed, has larger squares in size, and it seems a bit more sturdy in my opinion. But it's a matter of choice. Now, I have finished measuring out all the diagrams they're given here, and they're extremely surprisingly super accurate down to the last millimeter here. Extremely accurate. Now I'm going to give you some tips when cutting on this mat. Now there are a few tips to give about this cutting mat. The first would be is to know that this is a self-healing mat. That basically means that this mat is made of individual particles or segments per box. So when you take a cutter and cut along it, you are basically just separating the particles, and in a while they just like come back and stick together. Another thing I would recommend is when you take a cutter, cut it along a straight line, or if you're cutting along a curved line, remember to just rotate whatever you're cutting. Don't try to go all the way like this or this. Soon you're gonna start cutting up the mat so bad that you're gonna start seeing the individual layers come out, and that's not good. That's not good for any cutting mat. A third tip I would give to you is this is not exactly a washable mat, so if paint stains get on this, they don't really go off. Even watercolor paints, they don't really go off. And if you try to sand away the cutting paper, which I wouldn't do, but if you do, it's gonna be a hard shock to you that actually just scratches away the paint and the color on this too, which is not exactly a very good idea. My third tip to you would be the very last one would be that use these measurements given. Like take your tracing paper and just draw draw this onto that, transfer it onto that. But don't take a paper and try to do some stunts like shining a flashlight through so that this is visible and the paper is visible. And one thing I would recommend to you is even if you can see this through the paper, don't try and cut directly on the paper. Just move your paper bit aside here and there and cut it. The very last tip I would give to you is if you start just cutting in one place, just like the center maybe, or just one side, or just this one side, you're gonna start noticing that the cutting mat is going to weaken, meaning the particles, when you separate them by cutting, they're not gonna join together anymore. This is gonna get split there. That's not gonna look good on a new cutting mat. So I'm gonna recommend that you keep it occasionally, make a schedule like today I'm gonna keep the paper over here, tomorrow I'm gonna move it over here, tomorrow I'm gonna move it here. Just randomize the pattern in which you keep the cutting material somewhere. Just don't keep it in one place. My very last tip and most important one is that don't keep it where there's direct sunlight. You're gonna start notice that there's a lot of discoloration. that comes, because this is a beautifully made mat. It's a very good green, a nice army green color to it almost, and a very nice blue. The more you're gonna start keeping it in the sun, the more the colors are gonna fade, and the more inaccurate these measurements grow. So if you're like me and you have to use these measuring tools, you're going to have to keep it very safe and away from direct sunlight. So those are my tips for you. Now my overview of this is that when I got it in the box, the mat came folded, right? That's not very good. Even if you read the manufacturer's description, you're gonna see that they say don't fold it if you want a longer life. So my only feedback to Amazon would be that just get a bigger box. Don't try and fold it, because even if the box is a little bit big, it doesn't matter, right? So let's just make a bigger box, and if you fold it, it's going to take a very long time to straighten this out. This took me almost half an hour to straighten out, and it's a very big pain. That's one tip I would give to Amazon. And this overall, you're going to see that it's a very technical cutting mat, and you're going to slowly want to discover what this cutting mat can do and can't do, though the latter is very limited. The second thing you're going to want to do is you're going to take these measurements and you're going to want to use them from time to time, because instead of just using a ruler or some graphing tool, it's better to just use these measurements. They're given very well, and I have measured them. They are very, very, very accurate. I have not seen even a millimeter here and there. So that's very accurate. Now these, I don't exactly know what they are, but I'm going to find out later though. But if you know what they are, put it down in the comment section below. And if you know what these are, you're going to find these very useful, I assure you. And again, my tips are, when you're using the cutter, be very careful. Don't lean it towards any side in any way. Keep this away from sunlight. Don't fold the cutting mat. Don't paint or glue on it. And that's all I have to say. Overall, it's a great product. It's been very good to me, and that's why I recommend you should go for this. It's really worth the price, and though it may take some time because of the pandemic to deliver, but trust me, it's worth it. It's just worth it. That's why I recommend that you check out the link in the description below to buy this cutting mat. Thank you for watching. See you next time.